Hello, I'm Daz, and welcome to American Civil War and UK History. This podcast is available as a video on YouTube and as a podcast from wherever you get your podcasts from. We're on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, and you'll find all the relevant links in the description below and on the topic we're talking about today. So joining me, we have a group of Napoleonic reenactors, and they will be marching 30 miles over 2 days in aid of a charity called Waterloo Uncovered. Would you guys like to introduce yourselves, please?
I'm Liam. I'm part of the 44th Living History Group, 44th East Essex Regiment of Foote, and I'm one of the guys that's going to be taking part in this fundraising challenge.
Thank you.
My name's Dave. I'm also part of the 44th Regiment of Foote, joined originally in 2000, so been part of it for quite a while. Brief time away whilst I was in the Navy, but yeah, best part of 20 years in the group, and I'll also be taking part in the 30-mile challenge.
I'm Mark. I'm the third member of the 7 that's actually taking part in the march. So all being well, we're gonna make it.
And I'm Henry, and I'm an archaeologist, and I work for Waterloo Uncovered.
Okay, that's great. Thanks, guys. So before we talk about the march, could one of you please give us a brief history of the 44th East Essex Regiment of Foote and their involvement in the Battle of Waterloo?
That's got to be Dave, right?
Right. I was going to jump in on that one, but all right then, Dave.
Well, whoever wants to really. So the 44th Foote, specifically the 2nd Battalion, which is what we predominantly represent. They went out to the Peninsula relatively late, arriving in 1810, fighting throughout the Peninsular War until 1813, when they were so depleted they returned to the UK. In the intervening period, they fought at Fuentes de Onoro, and they're at Ciudad Rodrigo, Badajoz, and then probably most famously Salamanca, where they captured a French Eagle. A number of other engagements that they took part in, but those being the most noteworthy. Eventually returning home in 1813 to re-recruit, and then they deployed at the end of 1813 to the Low Countries to take part in the Bergen-op-Zoom campaign in the Netherlands, where they covered themselves in a certain amount of success and I wouldn't necessarily say glory, but one of the few regiments that performed well, although a majority of them were captured after that campaign, which was somewhat of a debacle. After the cessation of hostilities in 1814, they formed part of the corps in the Low Countries around which the Duke of Wellington's future army was created, and remained in the Low Countries until the Waterloo campaign, fighting as part of Picton's division at the battle, notably at Quatre Bras, where they fought off one of the first units to arrive from the British Army onto the field. Obviously, the Allies and the Dutch Belgians were there before them. Fought off a French cavalry attack in line, famously about facing their rear rank and fighting in line cavalry from both directions, quite a feat. Their colours nearly being captured in the process, although they were rescued. And then falling back with the rest of the army to Mont Saint Jean and fighting again as part of Picton's division on the 18th of June. In a nutshell, that is the 2nd Battalion, 44th.
Cool, thank you very much. And so could you also tell us a little bit, guys, about the actual reenactment society that you reenact in, and obviously the 44th Regiment as well, a little bit of the history behind that, if you wouldn't mind.
I'll pass over to Liam or Mark, I think, for this one.
I was going to say, you're
Mark, do you want to jump
number
on?
2, Dave.
Yeah, but I think you guys, I've done enough talking.
So hopefully, if I get any of this wrong, Dave will correct me. But it was founded in 2000?
Correct.
Yeah, by Major General Edwin Parker. We are, like Dave said, we're a 2nd Battalion. We're one of the few 2nd Battalions that actually deploys. The 1st Battalion actually gets sent out to America. It is one of the regiments that infamously burned the White House. But we're a 2nd Battalion. We predominantly do Spanish and European events. Some of the guys did actually go to New Orleans a few years back, but we normally try to do, say, one to two European events a year. This one, we're actually doing the rescheduled 205th anniversary of Waterloo, 207 years after the event this year. But we've been to Holland, Quatre Bras we did not too long ago, which was the first ever reenactment of that battle fought on the actual site. So that was the first muskets fired there in over 200 years. They've been to Spain, pretty much anywhere that the regiment fought, the association's been to. We're also one of the units within a larger group called the Napoleonic Association. So if you don't fancy centre red coat, you want to be 95th Rifle and pretend to be sharp, then there's an option there, or God forbid, you want to be French.
Who would want to do that? Only joking. Thanks, Mark. Cheers. So, okay, let's move on to the actual charity, Waterloo Uncovered. So, who would like to tell me about the charity, and obviously what you guys are doing this March for?
Yeah, sure thing. So Waterloo Uncovered is a charity that started in 2015, and it is a charity that focuses on veteran mental health and care and education, providing opportunities for veterans and serving personnel who suffer from mental or physical health conditions, and helping them transition into civilian life, including helping them gain experience for careers in the heritage industry. We have an excavation at Waterloo every year that forms part of 5 year-round programs that we do in support of veterans and serving personnel.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so we'll move on to the march then. So tell us about what you guys are actually doing, and tell us about how the idea came up and who came up with the idea.
So I think it was pretty much sort of my brainchild with Dave really sort of jumping on board in support. I actually have benefited from Waterloo Uncovered's wonderful work. I joined the Battlefields Uncovered, one of the sort of online academic courses, if you will. I joined one of those courses in September last year, and went on to do the second part of that, which I'm just finishing up now. I'm actually writing an essay that goes through the University of Utrecht summer school. So it's been a real good journey in terms of academics for me, but also in terms of support. I'm ex-army, so I sort of qualify through being a veteran that way. And really, I just wanted to come up with something that would give something back to the charity. And I joined the 44th fairly recently. I'm one of the newest members. I sort of signed on pretty much about the same time as I started with Battlefields Uncovered, the first unit back in September. And yeah, so I wanted to give something back, and I thought it would be really good to include the 44th, obviously being a Napoleonic British unit, and yeah, and that's where the sort of the idea came about, and then we sort of bounced ideas back and forth. And one of the sort of really good ideas that we sort of settled on was covering a similar distance. It's sort of estimated that the 2nd Battalion 44th would have covered from their billets around Brussels prior to Quatre Bras, and then down to Quatre Bras and back to Mont Saint-Jean, and it works out, we can't be exactly sure, but it works out roughly about 30 miles. So that's where the 40 miles comes from. The 30 miles comes from. Yeah, and we want to do it as close to those, with the kit and the sort of mindset, and we want to do it as close to the guys that did it back in 1815.
Okay, thanks, mate. Cheers. So, have you guys been doing some sort of training for this?
Not as an organised unit. So I think individually we've been going out, doing some walks. I went for a 16-mile walk last week. I went out again yesterday for just under 10. So individually, I think some of us have been going out and doing stuff and feeding back in, sort of encouraging each other to do it, because it's not a short distance, particularly with all the weight that you're carrying. It's a lot of equipment to be lugged along with you. So, but yeah, I mean, certainly no organised. We're all over the country, so getting us all together to to do the walk would be quite a logistical nightmare if achievable at all. But yeah, I think as individuals we've been going out. Is that fair to say, guys?
No.
All right. Well, some of us will be more prepared than others.
Like
Yeah.
Dave says, it's really difficult to try and get everyone together. I've been doing a bit of training at work and sort of in between my shifts. And I know a couple of the other guys have been doing bits here and there, but it is really difficult to try and get everyone in the same room. You know, it's difficult to try and get everyone on the same Zoom call sometimes, let alone you know, to do some training.
So again, you're all in different parts of the country.
Yeah, that's right. Well, for the walk itself is taking place in Essex. There are quite a few of us going out to Belgium for the reenactment in June.
Oh, I see.
I believe David and Mark are both part of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think most of the other guys that are taking part in the walk are joining that sort of joining that reenactment as well.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, the plan is to do it in the UK. It gives us, as I say, logistics being,
Yeah.
you know, amateurs study tactics, professionals study logistics, as the saying goes, and logistics is a nightmare. So if we can do it in the UK, it makes things like licensing of firearms, which obviously we'll be carrying with us, a lot easier. Although I say we're spread across the country, most of us are in the Suffolk and Essex area, so we're not hugely geographically diverse. So that's why we've chosen the area we've chosen. Amongst other reasons, it's fairly local. It's not too far away from everybody. Obviously, it's at a farm. We know the owners. One of them's on this call, so it helps us in terms of that sort of element of things. But trying to organise that in Belgium with all the different town mayors and everything else to get through. My French isn't particularly great, and I'm sure that if they speak Flemish, it's probably even worse.
And to be honest, the terrain of Essex and Belgium's probably not too dissimilar either. So it'll be a good replication of the terrain. It's sort of small rolling hills rather than anything major, but sort of not completely flat as maybe some other areas that we could have done it in to make it easier. So hopefully it'll be a good representation of it.
Actually gone out and scouted the route beforehand.
So I've walked some of it myself, but Liam, I think, is the only one that's done the whole route in its entirety.
Yeah, I haven't done it in one sitting yet. I'm saving that for the day. But I've done sort of a couple of different route recce's from this end. I'm actually based at Love's Farm, which is the location for the overnight stop and sort of therefore the halfway point. I sort of attacked it from both ends, and the majority of it is actually on the Essex Way. So it's a well-established footpath.
Okay, cool. Okay, so let's move on to what sort of weight you're going to be carrying, because like you said, you're going to be doing it authentically. So how much weight would a soldier be carrying? What would they be carrying? You know?
So it's about 60 pounds. So it is fairly, Liam will probably tell me if I'm right on this, about similar to what a modern day soldier will carry.
Yeah, it's not far off, to be fair. It's a lot closer than people would think, actually.
Yeah, just a hell of a lot worse of kit to actually carry it in ergonomically. So, for example, our packs don't have a frame, they don't have any waist belts, anything like that to help support the load across the body. It's all on the shoulders. The canteen weighs a ton because that's an oak barrel that has to be full all the time. So, and all the straps are just really, really narrow. So they really do cut into you.
I must say, I have to admit, I agree with Mark about the weight, but actually, once you're in it, I find it. You know, I've done tours in Iraq and Afghanistan, and once you're in it, and it's sort of strapped on, and you carry a lot of the weight sort of on your body. I found with the cartridge box and the haversack and the bayonet and things like that, it's all kind of on you.
I think
so
the big difference, though, I think, is that in modern kit you carry, although you have it over your shoulders and your back does take some of it, you do carry some of it on your waist with waist belts on things like packs and
absolutely,
your webbing. So that's the real thing. And particularly with the pack, which is quite bulky and it sort of drags you backwards, there's a tendency to have a lot of weight higher up on your body. And I do feel that without it sitting on your waist, it does hurt more, particularly when you, as Mark says, you've got such narrow straps. I mean, the canteen holds 3 pints and it's got 1-inch wide straps. There's a lot of pressure dragging down on your shoulders, and then you've got obviously all your crossbelts and everything else cutting in. So, but yeah, I mean, as Liam says, I don't find it particularly uncomfortable, but it's certainly not as comfortable as you'd wear modern. I don't know if you'd back me up on that, Liam.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's distributed. So modern stuff is distributed so much more evenly. Plus, I don't think any of us have really covered the distance that we're trying to do, or that we're going to do, that we are going to do for Waterloo Uncovered. So yeah, it might feel comfy for the first mile or two, but I might be giving you a different response after 29 miles or so.
Well, and I think
It's a
the
question that I
footwear as
should be
well.
asking you afterwards, really, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely. I mean, ironically, I think the footwear is the thing that I'm most concerned about. I've walked 10, 15 miles in hobnail boots before, but I've never done 30 miles in hobnail boots. And I think that's the thing that most of us are a little bit concerned about, as opposed to the weight. I mean, the weight, we'll just have to get through it, and
Yeah, again, I
grab a
was going
hold.
to mention the boots because I know I wear reenacting boots as well. Well, boots, Jefferson Davis for American Civil War, and they were a killer. And I have to plaster my feet up just to wear them for the second day. So yeah, marching 30 miles in those is going to be a killer. So I'll take my hats off to you. Anyway, so what's the plans on sleeping while you're doing this? Are you doing this authentically, and you're going to camp? Are you going to cook and do all the stuff the soldiers would have done on the march?
Yeah, so we are certainly going to try and keep as close as sort of practically and health and safety, modern health and safety. We want to keep our guys. We want to look after the blokes that are doing it. But yeah, we've got. So like I say, I'm based at Love's Farm, which is the halfway point. We've got a big agricultural barn at the bottom of our garden, for want of a better word. I've got a lean-to out the back of there, so it's fairly open. I'm going to clear that out and put some straw down, and that's going to be, we're going to be using the blankets that we're carrying and the greatcoats that we're carrying, and that's where we're going to be bedding down for the night. I don't know if one of the other guys want to take up the food for the rations for the duration.
Yeah, so we'll be carrying, again, within the limits of health and safety. We would be carrying a pound of beef. That's what we've gone for. The choice of beef or pork. We're trying to keep it as vanilla as possible without going into things like, obviously they would have supplemented rations and provisions on the march by buying in from places, but we're going with the bog standard. So they'd have had either a pound of beef or half a pound of pork. We're going for the beef. That will probably be kept somewhere so it doesn't go bad in our haversacks. Again, bit of health and safety, but we'll carry an equivalent weight of that. Pound of ship's biscuits, some dried peas, some cheese, bit of rice, and that's basically your provisions for one day. So given that we're leaving sort of just before midday on the Saturday and hoping to be done by midday on the Sunday, the plan would be that we'd just have one day, because that's all we'd need. I can vouch that ship's biscuit is very hard. I don't know how many of us have tried it, but it's certainly not something you'd be wanting to bite into on the march. So I think lunch might be the biggest problem. You definitely need something to dunk it into. So obviously breakfast and dinner will be cooking. So you've got the water and the soups and broths and things that we'll be making. But lunch may prove to be the most difficult meal to overcome.
A little bit like hardtack, I expect.
Absolutely, hardtack is the Victorian name for it. So yeah.
Okay, cool, yeah. So of course that's a little bit before, isn't it? So yeah. Okay, so will you guys be documenting the march in any way? With, I mean, obviously, of course, you're trying to keep this authentic, I understand, but will you be documenting it along the way, or how's that going to work?
Yeah, so we've got a support structure in place. So there's a couple of members of the unit who aren't with us doing the march itself, who'll be available in cars and other support vehicles should there be anybody who has a problem. Their secondary role is to meet us at certain waypoints pre-arranged, and they'll film us and talk to us, see how we're getting on, provide updates for both ourselves and for the charity. So they'll be able to put those onto our social media, send them to Waterloo Uncovered to get onto their social media. So the idea would be that there'll be periodic updates without us breaking our immersion too much, and that'll all be dealt with by that support team.
Yeah, we're also hoping to have a videographer from the charity that they're going to come and hopefully speak to the guys at one of those, like Dave said, one of those pre-arranged stops.
Okay, cool. So this is a question for all of you. How do you actually feel and again, I know you're not actually going to Belgium, but you are going to do the march. How does it feel to actually put on the kit and do something similar that the original regiment did, well over 200 years ago?
I think it's kind of daunting in a way, because we haven't, like, from reenacting in the American Civil War stuff we do, you put the kit on, you go out and do a half-hour battle, you march back, and that's kind of it. Where suddenly we're doing a whole day event. So the most I'd probably estimate I've ever marched in kit would be about 5 miles, something like that. Is a push. Just to say that we're going to treble it in one day and then do it again the next. We're not. Yes, they did it back then, but then their bodies were different. They were used to it. If you had to march, if you wanted to go to the next town over, which is sort of 10 miles away, you walk there, you walk back. It's not like today where you jump in your car. So it's how hardened our bodies are to be able to do this.
I think it's exciting though, for the very same reason that it's different. If it was easy, nobody would want to sponsor us, and there wouldn't be such interest in what we're doing. So, but equally, I think reenacting, more specifically living history, is changing, and I think it has been for a number of years. And certainly other periods that I've done, like World War II, this is not an uncommon thing to do, to go and live as they did for 24, 48 hours, 36, sometimes a week. And I think it's exciting from that perspective to be doing something new, trying to live and experience the life that they led. It's not going to be easy. It wasn't easy for them. It might have been somewhat easier in the sense that they knew it, but not all of them knew that life. Some of them would have been new recruits, particularly for the 44th, who were decimated in the peninsula and raised afresh in many respects in 1813 and again in 1814. So I think it will be interesting. It will be difficult, as Mark says. Don't want to underplay that. I think it will be very difficult, and I think we'll struggle, and many of us will probably be quite happy when it's over. But yeah, exciting as well, and it will be eye-opening and give us an insight that we've not had before. So
yeah, I think I've got to echo both of those. I agree with David and Mark. I think I think it is quite daunting. Like Mark says, we are as humans these days, we are conditioned very differently. I think for me personally, having done quite a lot of walking in modern military kit, sort of when I served, it's almost a personal challenge in the fact that I really want to sort of step into the footsteps of the guys that we represent, and we want to honour them, and really sort of push ourselves to compare ourselves to their standard, and also the huge thing is to try and raise as much money as possible for the worthy cause.
Okay, thanks guys. So let's move on to the charity again. So if people want to support this, where do they go and what do they have to do?
So the march is taking place under a campaign called Reenact for Veterans, which is just about to launch, and it is encouraging people from all reenactment groups and history enthusiasts to don some historical kit and take on interesting challenges like the ones these guys are doing. You can Google Waterloo Uncovered, and you'll see Liam's fundraiser will be shared by our social media. I don't know if you guys we'll put a link in the description, but I'm sure you'll probably put one below, won't you? Or there's the Reenact for Veterans campaign, or as in this picture here, there's Liam Telfer, his Just Giving page as well. And what is the title of that, Liam?
That is, I'll maybe send the link on, because it's obviously, with it being a Just Giving page, it is quite a long link. But if you go on to Just Giving, it's under Just Waterloo March, and you'll see the picture that's in the top left there.
Okay. Well, again, everybody, if you want to support this amazing thing that these guys are doing, then please obviously go, like they said, to the Just Giving page. And again, I will be putting it in the description below. And all that's left to say, guys, is good luck. And yeah, hope you do well. Hope you achieve what you want to achieve. Cheers.
Thanks very much.
Fingers crossed. Thank you very much.
Cheers.